I want to talk about the new Resident Evil. Um, the new Resident Evil about Resident Evil Village, and what is it focused too much of Chris Redfield? Is it focused too much of Chris Redfield? And if so, it would it they say it will be his last game on Resident Evil 9 and Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 7. His role is that Resident Evil 7 it was a lot better than Resident Evil 8 because um when they gave the DLC, the Resident Evil 7 did have a DLC, and Chris Redfield has his own campaign. It was short, but it was playable than how Resident Evil Village is because like similar to Code Veronica remake, but I think Code Veronica remake was a bit bigger because it was focusing on the main characters than side characters that comes in and doesn't make any sense. And that's why the main characters was started off with Claire Redfield, and then Chris Redfield show up in the second part of the game, Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, Code Veronica, and that's why Chris Redfield and this and Resident Evil Village was short because um in the second part of his part when he gets there, um two times it shows his part, but it was very short. And just comeback, but I see why Chris Redfield um was there. There's a lot of chances, and the Umbrella Corps, the the game, the game of um the Umbrella Corps from Resident Evil. Um, it was a game that was assigned or something that is like a multiplayer. That it wasn't a failure, failure game. It's just that it was focusing on like multiplayer, um, like online PvP, and not like a survival horror multiplayer thing. That was like two good things that came out was Resident Evil Resistance and Resident Evil no, it's just one. Oh yeah, Resident Evil Outbreak. Two games that is like based on survival horror, based on like a survival horror multiplayer, and the Umbrella Corps on this game was like something that would have been for like um would have focusing on survival horror, and the Umbrella Corps was part of the Resident Evil, and Chris Redfield was like starting to be the main focus again, where it wasn't focused for a long time, and he was part in Resident Evil 6. Then Leon and Jake Mueller, but Chris Redfield was like kind of like the main thing because of the story, and then in Resident Evil 5 also because it was the main character that took down Wesker, and then they made him also in the movies, and then the focusing on him in Resident Evil 9. Finally, his fourth that is coming. Um, like like a game would have been for some the original games of Resident Evil. But the original Resident Evil has been a long time. Didn't was released, um, and like original zombies. Like the Resident Evil, um, like the original wasn't released for a long time, and has been spin-off and remake from inspiration, and is a good thing. But it's not like how we're supposed to have zombies from the original, like how Revelation from the beta of Resident Evil Revelation. The original story is like because now that watch the CGI movies and you know about the original Resident Evil that used to be a game with the cutscenes of the original, and it was like harder puzzles was hard, and you don't didn't need to say something about the original because the Resident Evil series was has puzzles, and it was released during that time with the originals and PlayStation 1, 2, the golden age, and it was like hard puzzles and longer campaign, um, more hard, no um, remove content, and suddenly it's starting to get removed content maybe, and you don't see the original zombies that show part of the original characters journey that you know of the original, where the main characters was about them, um, for them, and then there's some part size games that will happen, but it was canceled or wasn't um released, and Chris Redfield, like there was different missions, PSA, like would have been playable as a game of his journey, like one of the spin-offs that they're doing, like spin-off and just waiting. They've been doing spin-off going back to the original, but that would have been a game that's similar to Code Veronica if they had continued with the um original route, where it could be Resident Evil 8 Village would have been released, but there would have been another spin-off of the series based on the, like how similar to Resident Evil Code Veronica was, and Resident Evil Revelation. Those are spin-off, and those are like titles that was about the Resident Evil series that would have been make sense of continue and show part of the characters before they are getting older. Would have been not like skip their age a lot. Would have shown like how Revelation show with Chris Redfield and with Jill, but it was like a um different part. Like in the beta, it was showing like just Honk and Chris and Jill. There was another part, but it's cut out. And like there's like would have been like spin-offs or a complete full story about like how the movie is doing, but there's like some cut things that still is the thing where it should show like all of it maybe to show just how Leon like it would be like similar to Code Veronica mechanic where Chris and it talks about Claire, and then it switched to Chris because he got contact with Leon, and then Chris Redfield saved Claire and Resident Evil Code Veronica, and that would have make sense similar to the like one of the CGI movies or something. but like it just become content, and then the show Glen Areas has faced Leon, and Leon team was removed, and then now with Chris, and then it's didn't show any flashbacks of Chris, what had happened to why he left the BSA and why Lady Miranda what was coming for him or was trouble, and the like the Umbrella Corpse was like something that like a survival horror multiplayer thing could be. All in the game. Something. Do I see why it was like that? The difficulty, how it changed in the original. You still could play the original games, Resident Evil, and you could experience the hard difficulty that one that is hard and story and all of that. And Chris Redfield, it's his last game for Resident Evil 9, and what will it be? We're not sure. If a bird corpse like the Will Not Go series, I think it's on their own. Probably we will see a game that based on the story of the original of Resident Evil of Chris Redfield, or the main characters of their original form, and probably would like, but we don't know. We will see if Chris Redfield or the main characters will be back to their original form, like how the movie was, this generation, Vendetta, that would have been like playable, like similar how like PS Vita that they had, they would have been putting a title in to play or playable, but I think it's not. Or what? And that's why like that was like consoles that was like ready for like a specific title or something for Resident Evil, like PS Vita or PS Vita 2 that could have Resident Evil. Or there will not be. I think there's not gonna be any multiplayer based on the campaign. Only the Resident Evil 6 did have, and how it was, and how the player was able to play as a zombie as hunting the player in their campaign and took them down in Resident Evil 6. And that was like a special thing of that multiplayer where um this they pick as a zombie, and then they go in the multiplayer online campaign, and the player there's like option for them to allow them to come in. So the campaign is like online, and they could be zombies. They're like, that was something about that was special. That was something about that would have made sense for like if it was in a Resident Evil single player, or like similar to Resident Evil 6, but also had an option to like allow or off or not allow in the option like similar to Resident Evil 6. And that would have made sense of them to become like a zombie, like, but it would be like similar to Resident Evil Outbreak, but they would be able to control the zombie and like go indoors, and that would probably will make sense. But I think that will not, maybe will not make sense as a like a survival game, but maybe a multiplayer. But they did that in Resident Evil 6, and then even the Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0 perhaps will not have it. It will just be a single player, and only like in Resident Evil 6 was the only game that did have that. But I see why they want to be Nemesis, but I think that would be wrong, because if they were Nemesis, I think they would camp in like in a safe room. That would make sense. I see why they didn't added the multiplayer as Nemesis, but in Resistance they did. where the players able to control the zombies. It just depends on of how well um you master the putting a lot of zombies respawns, and then you become Nemesis playable. Who how Dead by Daylight has with Nemesis, and I see why it's not playable as a single player because I think the Nemesis probably would be too hard camping. I don't know how it will work or how the cooldown will be, but using Nemesis or rocket launcher or something, attacking the Geo in the original Resident 3, I see why they Nemesis wasn't a in the campaign online for Resident 3. I see why, but as a zombie, that would make sense. As a zombie, that they can't camp because if they get like how Simba Resident 6, they get taken down as of the player that is playing in the campaign, and then they respawn as another zombie, you know. But perhaps there will be a cooldown or timer, like how Resident 6 was, and then Resident 1. Like how Resident 6 is, that makes sense. I see like how Invade Studios, Invader Games, that created their own survival horror. They did like a demo way back about the Nemesis that would have been in campaign. But that would not make sense. But they could Nemesis would have like the player would be able to like break the walls, like how most they thought that the entrance to get to Star's room, the players that was Nemesis or not. Why it isn't, but I see why that was removed with what they were trying to do in big games with Nemesis and how players able to be Nemesis, but I see why it will be just camping. I don't know if they will allow that because I think that probably will be camping and that probably will ruin the player experience with online multiplayer with those type of plays that the others are doing. Or like how Resident Evil Outbreak was, where they block the door and they not allow players to proceed or follow the teammates, and they get or sometimes what's called like that blocking the doors. I see why that was removed of blocking the door from Resident Evil Outbreak. That mechanic, that's kind of like a negative play, and that's why that was removed. And that's a good thing, you know. Resident Resistance was made so you could play online. It's still there is some like negative plays in Resident Evil Resistance, but at least it's a good online multiplayer to play. And like Umbrella Corps would have been similar, but perhaps it would happen like some more like a survival thing. Like similar to Resident Evil Resistance. It's just that you play as the characters maybe. Like maybe from the PSA characters or something, Chris Redfield, Fusion, and then you be in a chopper or whatever, like similar to how like the Vendetta was, and then go to the mansion, whatever, something or not. There's something or not, or just a zombie to be as a zombie. And there's not camping, I know that. That probably will not be. It just depends on the difficulty. That will make sense. But I see why Resident Evil 6 was something that was used as a zombie, but it depends on the player difficulty that they choose. Normal, hard, or no hope, or or whatever, so that they test the skills of the player. And the zombies, that they could be zombies, but they can't camp. You know that? It's just that they probably will just could enter the doors as a zombie, that would make sense. But I see why that wasn't a thing, and that's why there's like some things that players wanted to see as a Resident Evil 2 will happen, and for the zombies thing, like how they like the safe rooms, whatever. Like Resident Evil Outbreak was something, but they were just zombies on their own with a computer. Resident Evil Outbreak, and they able to open doors and enter doors and difficult. And then in Resident Evil 6, I see why that's harder. You know, they able to enter doors. They could it was a lot different, but they could like continue doing combos with the other teammate. There was two players playable for Resident Evil 6 as a zombie or some mini boss or whatever, and you're able to like become the creatures, become like the hunter, like how similar to Left 4 Dead, but it's a lot different, you know, because like you could be like now it probably will not be like Mr. X or as Nemesis, but as like a zombie, a hunter, or something like that. That would make sense of that. But like how Resident Evil 6 was, you could do combo, you know, similar to Resident Evil 2 Remake did, where sometimes they could combo you and game over. And for Resident Evil 6, they able to combo and then game over for the player because he chooses difficulty. But that's it. And how Chris Redfield is focusing, this is too much. It's a good character, and the way how the story is in Veronica, that was like the original Chris stories before the how it is in Resident Evil 8. It's the voice of Chris Redfield also. So for Resident Evil 9, we don't know who will be. And for Bird Corpse is something that will happen, or like a multiplayer, or not like how it is, but like a PvP thing. Perhaps it would have been like a PvE survivor thing, helping team or leave the team to happen, like how Resident Evil 1 was, where you left your that you didn't save and then you escape quickly, like how the Resident Evil 1 was. Speedrun, fastest time, and that's how it is, and how the Resident Evil how the Resident Redfield is. Like Nemesis, tough. Okay, single player. That's why you be Nemesis as single. But it would probably be a different look how the universe is if it was like how Resident Evil 3 original was being remake. It probably will show like the RPG. Maybe there will be online. Maybe there were an option to Resident Evil 6. What it was? That was like how it was in Resident Evil 6 and how you play it and how you allow like online or offline and allow like other players come in and then they have to come in. It'd be hard for the player to win or to proceed his story or his campaign because he allows come in and as a zombie and one. I don't know about the Resident Evil 0 or 1 would be. Resident Evil 0. I don't know about Resident Evil 0. It's just a single player puzzle switch. Leave items in the ground and the zombies, and I know if that would be like a zombie thing where it would be difficult. I don't know. The chainsaw mode it was different. but I don't know how it will be for Resident Evil 0. Uh, like the zombies thing, Nemesis, perhaps perhaps it will be like how I prefer the Resident Evil 6 because of the zombies, to be able to be zombies and hunt the players and then win points or win a platinum or something with it and then use your points, whatever. But as zombies from Resident Evil 0 1, that probably will make sense, be more difficult. It probably will enter doors, maybe. We don't know how many players, be, that example, be able to join if it was like that. I'm just guessing. That's what it was in Resident Evil 6. And you play, it was still offline. Then you choose online, and then it's hard, and then they come in, and then they could, like, if they were very good, they could take, like, beat, win with combos. They do combos, take turns, and they do combos on, and that's how they won in Resident Evil 6 as a zombie when they were hunting. Leech Hunter or something like that. I don't know about Resident Evil 0, 1. Oh, will mean something always on the different Resident Evil Vendetta, Resident Evil Death Island, and Resident Evil 3. It always means something or whatever that the story is, and that's how it is. Umbrella Corps is like a like a BSA thing, but it's not. It's just that you be as the how it is, but not like a survival horror thing with those characters. Like they always put like you buy something and they look like their characters, like there's Chris Redfield face, Wesker face, Leon, but like a playable character. Like they did that in a multiplayer in Village. But if it was like a survivor game, with like being a chopper, like how it is in like Vendetta and Death Island, where they're in like a chopper or like a car taking them to their mission. That would make sense, They would show them, and perhaps like maybe not like it's not important for others. For like maybe some others would like to see like their characters like doing like setting up their their stuff or equipment or something to prepare for their mission, like from the zombies. Like they did put a multiplayer just for dinosaurs, but if it was like like that type of way, I think it like how E movie and how Vendetta is, and how Chris was like setting up his stuff and prepare, and then they enter. That probably will be playable maybe, and then the players who's playing as the it probably will not. It probably be just be a multiplayer game maybe, and and then you play as those characters, and then other characters that was like in the movie be playable maybe, but as a multiplayer, surviving, and shooting zombies, I don't know, and then doing puzzles and go to the safe room because your teammate is down and you just carry them, and then helping them out while the other teammate cover them, like similar to Resident Evil Revelation, how Parker was and how Jill helped Parker while Chris Redfield was in that part to cover them to go to the next chapter, and then Revelation it shows how Parker was slowing them down and they disappeared. It could do that. It could be like something like that, but I think it will not. This is that's how like Resident Evil 6 was and Resident Evil Resistance. Resident Evil Resistance is the only game that is good. But I'm not sure how it will be with if it was a survival horror thing, a game, but I think not. And and that's why C, the CGI was made. Death Island, you see the zombies now. Like the remake is good. It's just that you wanted to see the zombies of about the character and the character of Chris Redfield and them and what had happened to them, what 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 they've been doing, and that's why they brought the zombies and and they show them and it shows different they're doing the zombies, and it always means something with the villains. It always means something when they say something with their dialogue. It's always like something what it means, and you probably know about the what the villain is talking about, well, like how Vendetta is and how what it was what it was and and how Glenary is and how how it was harder over there, and then how it is in that story, and then even Tiff Island and how villain is, but he wasn't like a big thing, but he says something. It probably makes sense with that dialogue, and Glenn Arias didn't talk about that. What was the background of the story and what it was about. The Vendetta was like a spirit of like air, and then they become zombies, and then they become back to normal again. That's something with that. And even Vendetta, Death Island, different one. Like, and like it means something always. Like Chris Redfield finally has his team, his new team, but not the team that I've seen from the BSAA and Vendetta. Like that would have made sense. It's like that. I know it's side characters, but probably we want to see more of the old team of Chris Redfield, where in BSA and the Vendetta, where they were there, what had happened to them since like how the other main side characters didn't appear, like from Revelation they became like captains or something, and that's why they left the original BSA team, place where Parker is at, and they just didn't show them so much, you know. And they made like new characters, new side characters that you don't want to see, like Ethan Winter, and but I see like like it's like, is it canon? Perhaps it is, but I'm not sure. Of original Resident Evil would be, because but I see why they put that with like how Code Veronica was, and then they become werewolf, Resident Evil Village. That would probably make sense, you know. And Resident Evil 9, like not sure what will be, and Chris like how the characters was, like they didn't show more of the side villains like Jessica and Raymond. What had happened to them since Revelation? That was the only time that they showed them. But like I say, it did show them in the Umbrella Chronicles, the Dark Side Chronicles, where Chris and Jill were still young. The part where in Resident Evil 3, like how it was. I think it was. I like that part in that because it's just a shooting game, and then they say it wasn't good, and that's why you don't see more of that. You know, you didn't see more of that, and then other games that other was made, but it always get cut content. I prefer like the Dark Side Chronicles, Umbrella Chronicles, because it would show more like cutscenes that you like to see, and it is good. You know, yeah, I know it's like most wanted like a third person, first person playable, but that would make sense with the shooting game, like similar to Umbrella Chronicles, Dark Side Chronicles. It shows apart from Resident Evil 3 from the original, where there was like a pitch, like a story that talks about Jill was after you finish the game or you unlock some achievement, and it said that Jill went to Europe with Chris, and then you never seen it until the Dark Side Chronicles umbrella, and then you saw it now. You saw like how Chris and Jill with some other members of that's forming BSA, whatever, and they took down umbrella over Europe. In the game of Resident Evil, it was there, and it was talking about that. It was talking about Chris and Jill in there, and that's when they're still they didn't form BSA yet, but they were still like stars. They were still young, and that's when that part was over. And then it shows Leon part what he's doing, and he was in over there where Ivir was something from that would have been like a DLC for Resident Evil 4 remake, and that would make sense. It was like similar to Separate Ways from Resident Evil 4, the original, and that would make sense with the story with Ada, and that would be like a important DLC story because it would be based on the spin-off of characters of them, what they were doing. Like I see why that didn't show more of that often. Umbrella Chronicles and Dark Side Chronicles was good because you show all of it. It shows what they were doing, the flashbacks and such, and for Chris Redfield, like how Jill was doing, could have shown more. But I see why the players maybe didn't want that. And that's why it didn't continue, It would have continued, It wouldn't have been like a different one. And it probably will show like flashbacks of other characters' story and such that maybe some wants to see because it was mentioned in the Resident Evil 3, the story of what Chris was doing, and then it shows him sitting, and then he left to take down Umbrella, and then Jill also, but it would have made sense if Carlos could appear in some way of what had happened to him, not aging, not like aging so quick, and that will not make sense. Is it in that part? Is it the players like perhaps wants to know what happened to Carlos? I do care about Carlos because in the game Resident Evil 3 because he was a good character, and it was like the cow like it wasn't an enhancement, but it's like a CGI game, But it was, similar to Resident Evil 0 was and Resident Evil 1 remake, both. But I think more is Resident Evil 0. It's like a CGI game, but it's like a movie. And then Resident Evil 3, how it was in the original, where Carlos was running and trying to get to save Jill Valentine, and Nemesis appear, and it was playable cutscenes where Nemesis came out from the roof, trying to take down Carlos. Oh, and then if you mess up, he go into the door and get Jill, and it's game over on the game. And all those cutscenes, all the difficulty, like timer or something, and harder to know the true ending, like something like that is like only the timer and all choices you choose from the game of Resident Evil 3. That was like an example or something, and the compare resistance is good, finally you're able to play it. Then cancel the game or multiplayer, or maybe it didn't receive well, but I think the resistance is more better because the zombies more playable nemesis that you're able to play. But I like that, I removing the cover the door, for Resident Evil Outbreak, that was a big no because players could block the player play or just wanted to just join the team just to block the door, and that's why Resident Resistance was made, because you help each other in something, do good, but basically, like, depends on if they're good enough to summon to put a lot of zombies in resistant. Um, those and the Resident Evil, Chris Redfield, perhaps he's like a good character. How that Code Veronica was, like how Chris was, um how he how the character was, and how you didn't experience from the original, but from the remake, from the remaster, and how Chris Redfield was, and then Vendetta, he, like I say, he returned back to his original self, kind of, and the way the dialogue was with Chris Redfield. It, but like I said, Vendetta was more enhanced than Death Island, because it was like a different um movie, and it was like more enhanced. It was like more like what it was from the universe of Resident Evil Zero was. Is like that. It was like that example. It's like how that example of Resident Evil Zero that started the CTI series. And Resident Evil 1 remake did started it because of the where you saw the flashbacks of what happened before you enter your the Alkali Mountain, and Chris start his dialogue. Or Jill, I'm not sure, or Chris dialogue with the entrance of Alkali Mountain, and then how it was in the intro of Resident Evil 1, and Resident Evil 0, like it has more into the intro, but it's more this similar to Vendetta, and that's why I think Vendetta was an example. But I think they didn't took that route with the Resident Vendetta example for similar to Resident 0. Well, it was more enhanced. Um, the character, he looks. Chris was still younger than how it was in Death Island, the sequel. He was a bit older than Vendetta, because in Resident Vendetta he didn't look a bit older. He was younger. It did look that way because the way Chris Redfield was in Death Island, he was a bit older. He was aging, like perhaps in his we don't know what happened to Chris Redfield. And Mandela, he was a lot younger or something. And there was some parts where that was important, like foreshadowing or something. And shows like Catherine something happened to the other team that was captured or something. I'm not sure, from the game and the movie Resident Evil, and then it disappeared. That was important. And Chris was just struggling. That was like a good thing. Similar to Resident Evil Zero. That's like both examples of that good way than Resident Evil One. I know that Resident Evil One is very popular, and some movie storytelling from Welcome Raccoon City, they prefer using that than how Resident Evil Zero was. And like Resident Evil, I see why Resident Evil Zero was a different universe. There's different universes in Resident Evil, like how Resident Evil This Generation flashbacks, where Leon and Claire was running away from the zombies in the flashbacks when Claire was talking with Leon of what had happened, and then they say what had happened to them, and in Raccoon City they can never forget from the series. It's just a Resident and it's and what happened to Leon, he looks a lot different. They were like they were like fighting their way to the streets of Raccoon City, and that's the end of that flashback cutscene. And with Resident Zero was like, I don't know how well we will look if it was a remake. But that's a good game because Resident Zero, like the boss was very tough, you know, very tough. Resident Zero and one. I know what Resident Evil 1 remake. They have invincible mode. It has like the bad ending, but it's the fastest time that you could get. And I don't know how it would work with Resident Zero if it was how it is with the local Resident 3 remake, 2 and 4. Resident Zero was like that started it all. I know Resident 1 remake started it, how the original was and how I can see they chose just one mansion. Then they chose Resident Zero mansion. The tunnels that was kind of connected to Resident Zero. Well, there was like in the game where in Resident Zero there's a door that was blocked and there's a sign saying something, and that and perhaps that would happen like some different areas or some of connected to the Resident Evil 1 mansion or not. But in Resident Evil 1 remake, the Welcome Raccoon City, there's like they did that tunnel thing connected to the Raccoon City. But it's a lot different, you know. That's probably from the PlayStation 1 style that they chose with the Resident Evil 1, with the mansion, and didn't show us like the Bravo team, just one Bravo team, but it was a lot different. Like, but like would have become a good thing if it was like, to see like how what happened to Bravo team, and that's why Resident Zero was something with Resident Zero, and then Vendetta. They took that, but then they went to a different direction with Infinite Darkness and Resident Evil Death Island. The like Resident Zero and Resident Vendetta, it was good. Death Island and like to see more side characters. I think it's good, it's a good way, but I don't want like to trying to guess if Chris Redfield will become like similar to like Big Boss for MGS. I really sure don't want that for Chris Redfield to be as Big Boss or something like that for Metal Gear, to make him look like that, or because it's Resident Evil is its own thing, and like how Resident Evil Vendetta was, and how Chris' performance was, and how it was the game and Leon. It shows Leon. That's why it shows all of them what they were doing. Then how it is from the Resident Evil 3 that I got from with their story background and what they're doing after the Resident Evil 3. Jill already went to with Chris, and then I'm not sure about like how what characters could return. I guess maybe like Carlos, maybe I don't know about Billy Colin, or Jill is kind of like I don't know how it works with them. Chris is already aging. It's already showing that Chris is already at that point where he has to give up his his part because he's already aging. Jill probably isn't. We're not sure how many timeline or time skip will be, because in Vendetta they make Chris Redfield was younger and then they skip a bit more again, like they always do with the characters, and it shows Chris, but he's already he's older, but it didn't show like in the end or a flashback or something with the BSA, why he left the BSA, you know? And and Jill will come back, but I don't want to see like more time skip. Did you see the part where will continue? What happened to Jill? What's this gonna do? If we don't know, like I say, no one knows about Resident Evil 9. Like I thought Lenny Miranda from Resident Evil Village would have survived some type of way, like how Rosemary. So perhaps there is something, right? Because in Rose, DLC and Resident Evil Village, it shows that they skip, but Lady Miranda somehow managed to come back. But perhaps there is like perhaps multiple times that she will survive. I don't know how many lives she will be revived, how many times she will survive. You know, like how many will she will appear? You know, because she perhaps would maybe not. We don't know. You know, um, we don't know about Lady Miranda. She wasn't any part of. She was a big thing, but maybe perhaps she has a clone, a like special powers or not. We don't know. So yeah,